Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of DKM episode 15. Got here my boy Marcos. Now, you might be wondering, where's our boy Kenny? Well, fortunately, though, at the time of recording, it is officially Valentine's Day. Now, by the time you're hearing this, it's already been about like 2 days from now. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed your Valentine's Day. Kenny, unfortunately, had to simp out, go enjoy his time with his lovely fiance, and I wish them both happy. Even though he's a simp, I'm happy that he went out there and spent some time with his girl.
I don't think.
But in the meantime,
I mean,
I got my homie here, Marco, so I'm spending Valentine's Day with him.
I don't know. At what point does a person no longer become a simp, or even if you are married to them?
Well, you're always going to be a simp because you're going after a girl, you're not your homies, then you're always a simp.
But then, if you marry your homie, does that mean you're a simp?
No.
All right. I'm sure there's some fine line. Like I'm sure we can identify like simp like behaviors, even if you're single,
Oh, yeah.
in a relationship, whether it be girlfriend, boyfriend.
Oh, or better yet, if you want like a public display of simping, go to any Twitch stream nowadays.
But they banned the word.
Oh, right, we can't say it right. Well, simpletons, I like to
No,
put it.
you should call them. No, there was a different word that. Oh yeah, Twitch mods. They call you
mods, there you
Twitch
go.
mod because it was the Twitch something involving in Twitch staff that they banned it. I'm sure they got tired of being called.
My favorite one was the story about this guy who was modding for this girl streamer, for so long, and then later he like confessed his love for
Hmm.
her, and then she's like, I told you before I have a boyfriend, and like the guy goes on this massive fucking rant talking about how, oh, I modded for you. Why'd you think I did it? You think I did it for my good health? Blah 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 blah. And it's like, and she's just like, hey man, I thank you, but you asked for the position. You seem to be very reliable. I never promised you sex or as a relationship. I told you I had a boyfriend, and that was it. But like this guy went on this massive fucking tirade, and it was so fucking bad. And I don't know how this guy just didn't like, as he's typing this message, ever like look at himself, be like, what the fuck am I doing? Like I'm telling this girl I spent all this time and money on her, and I expected sex, and she's been dating someone the whole time.
I okay, so usually these um ideas, these points of view, these viewpoints in general come from a place of emotional distress.
Yeah,
People who are have weaker wills, generally speaking. Obviously, there's some things that people
right.
generally have, stronger will towards, like when it comes to work, when it comes to video games. People have a stronger will towards one thing over another. And this is just all my speculation and opinion, but the emotion of being in love, being loved, and that love being reciprocated as well. It's in our biology, right? I can only assume it is because it acts people in such a way in order to procreate. But the thing is that I'm not sure if you know anything about the MGTOW community, Daniel. But
Oh
well,
boy.
here's the thing, though. Here's the
Yeah.
thing, though. Obviously, every community has their toxic sides. So for those who's listening, MGTOW means men going their own way. It's a rather simple movement. When I got into it, I just was randomly looking at it. I didn't really know what I was getting into, and you know what they talked about. They opened my eyes on certain key factors, but from what I got out of it was just basically like, hey man, just focus on yourself. That little thing in your head that says, you gotta go mate or you gotta find a mate. You can suppress it for now. Just work on yourself, and that's one thing that I really took out of it. Obviously, there's some people in the community that get toxic and it gets like really like really misogynistic at times, but
Honestly, though, I've seen like the worst of MGTOW be no different than sometimes as incel. It's almost like the lines are incredibly
right,
blurred.
and you could tell. I I can, at least I can tell that if this person's coming from a good place, from experience,
Yeah,
or just just to be a hater, just to be part of this whole women are bad, women are. I'm not gonna use all the
yeah,
words, but you get the gist.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you been on any fucking subreddit lately? If back when r slash incel was a
Hmm.
thing, or MGTOW, you definitely see some really fucked up. But that's the thing though. Like I said, like the lines become so fucking blurred. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
yeah. There's also the what's this thing called? The horseshoe theory when it comes to both political aisles. The furthest of the left and the furthest of the right, basically come full circle because they start speaking about the same political issues, except one small difference. Like on the right, they'll say whites, but on the left, they'll say something else. But they say the exact same talking points, but it's just one key word that differentiates them. But
It's fucking Mad Libs at that point.
basically, so the at least with that, when it comes to the incel community, like obviously people. We shouldn't really like ostracize most of these people in the community because some of these people lash out because they might have an a mental block, some mental issue. It's just something that
Self confidence
it
issue.
is. It honestly is, and honestly, I personally,
That's my thing, man. Like I my thing about like with the whole incel
mhm,
thing, I don't immediately want to point the finger and be like, look at this guy, what a fucking loser. He can't get ass. Okay. I'm not against that. I would, tell him like, hey man, maybe stop directing all that energy to hating something that you have no control over and rather control something that you can. Maybe get into better shape, find a hobby, find something that makes you stand out a little bit, just focusing on the like I want women and women don't want me and thinking that your life is ruined because of it is fucking stupid. And and preferably if you don't go into a serial fucking killing tirade like certain
yeah,
people, that might be not the healthiest way to do
yeah,
it. And that's where like I said before about like the MGTOW line is that like I'm not against it. I think that especially when I was in high school, I seen a lot of my friends go into this vitriol horrible cycle about getting in with a relationship, getting worried that, oh my god, I'm not in a relationship anymore. I mean, granted, this is high school. Everyone was way more nosy about your business back then. But there was like this thing where it'll be like my friend will get broken up with a girl, and he's clearly, understandably a little bit bummed out about it.
mhm,
And it's understandable. I get it. You're bummed out, and I would put my arm around your shoulder and be like, "Hey, bro, like, keep your chin up. Maybe she wasn't the one for you." But rather than taking that time to heal, get that emotion out and getting that like pain
mhm,
out, they'll hop into another relationship. And I'm like, dude, now you're bringing that fucking baggage
mhm,
with you with this relationship. And then you might say, oh, but this girl doesn't get me. He's like, no, she probably is a sweet person, but you're bringing all that fucked up baggage with you and not letting it out. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody is going to be your caretaker. Some people are going to be like, hey, man, I'm here to be with you, not to be with the shell of a man that could be you.
right,
And
uh,
that's where I think with like the MGTOW movement, I could get behind it. I like the idea of it. I think when people say that like massive masculine toxicity, like I get that. I think in sometimes we need a sort of a brotherhood in a sort of way where guys are like, hey man, like don't worry about them girls. Nobody could judge you but
mhm,
yourself, and you're important. Don't determine someone else's opinion of you as you.
mhm,
Like work on yourself, and I'm okay with it. But then when you start getting into like incel rhetoric and shit, I'm like, okay, you're missing the point. The point is to be like not be bitter, but be better.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying? Incels do nothing all day but fucking whine and complain all day that, oh, I can't get ass, I can't get pussy, women are bad, blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, okay, then what the fuck do you want? What are you gonna do about
right.
it?
The
Find a hobby, do
one
something.
thing I like saying to folks is, and I'll say it on record, I honestly regret losing my virginity because it honestly is not as hyped out as what I thought it'd be. Constantly just chasing the
Oh yeah.
tail, constantly chasing the pursuit, that feeling. Only later
Mm-hmm.
to find out, which granted I did so when I was relatively young, so I mean I'm still young now, relatively speaking, but it's at least I managed to catch it early, where I'm like it's not as cut out to be if you're just doing it with random strangers who you're not gonna see again unless you pass by like a
Mm-hmm.
Publix or a Walmart and you see them there and you're like, oh wow, this person, let me just not talk to them because it's gonna be an awkward conversation, awkward encounter. So it's it's honestly like without you can go do your thing if you want to go play around with other people and just have intimacy with them as much as you
Right.
like. Sure, go do your thing. But I realize that it's not all cut out to be. I feel like almost it's a waste of time and money, only to for something to not bear any fruit. And I'm not talking about children. I'm just talking about you're putting effort in, and obviously all you're doing is getting pleasure out of it. But this is short term English, please. Short term pleasure compared to the long term. Obviously, this is one of
Yeah.
the philosophies I go with when it comes to alcohol or drugs. Especially with alcohol, the short term is, you're buzzed, you're drunk, you're having a nice time, it's a blast. Especially if you're one of those happy drunks when you're at parties. But that's a short term benefit, in contrast to the long term consequence. When you wake up in the morning, you're hungover, everything tastes like ass, everything's just
Yeah.
it's short term, long term. Obviously, if you take drinking too far, that's the correlation for, it's a cost and loss type of thing. You're like, what will I lose if I go into
Yeah.
this? And sure, I might be living a boring life, but sometimes I feel like I want to have control of the pilot seat. um,
Yeah. You don't want to have some form of addiction, like taking a hold of your
well, I wouldn't
life. You
say
know what I'm saying?
addiction. I'm talking about like not being able to be conscious about every little action.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
talking that, like, if I'm drunk, obviously there's going to be
You're inebriated. You're not 100% there. You're easily could be taken advantage of. God
right.
forbid.
So that's the same way as I viewed sex. Again, this is my own personal opinion, where I sort of regret losing my virginity, only to find out, I guess, this is not really all cut out to be. Especially if you're just gonna go around, play the same game over and over again, where you're just being all nice and smooth to a female, and you're just playing the right cards, you're saying the right things, and then it's the same game over and over again. Where it became too easy, and you're just like, so what's the point? There's no, I'm looking back and I don't see any improvement on my life, except to the part where I've noticed, like, hey, all this fooling around I did back then, it seems like a waste. It seems like a chore almost. And that's, at
Yeah.
least I got something out of it. And whenever I give advice to my boys, I'm like, look, if you want to get a girl and you're really struggling with it, there's two things you have to follow. Don't be unattractive, and don't be unattractive. It's the same line twice, but they means different things, right? You can dress
Right.
yourself to look better. You can have
Take better
a
care of
better
yourself.
air about yourself, and that is
That's true.
that confidence, that atmosphere that you bring to the room or to a group, when you're confident, when you're just not confident, I want to say, but you just want to live in the moment. You just want to
Not a
have,
downer. Not a depressing.
yeah, you want to have a good time. You want to make sure everyone else has a
Right.
good time.
Right. People want to be around you. Essentially.
Basically, right? And you don't look for, like, what's the word? How would I say it? You don't look for validation. You just do your thing. Obviously, if someone tells you, it's like, hey, you might be pushing it a little bit, you're like, oh, my bad, and you learn. But that's the first step, right? Don't be unattractive. You gotta look. You gotta have that mentality of being attractive. The second part is obviously looking the part, and I'm not talking about like you have to lift weights and all that stuff, but it helps. It helps. I'm talking about more. If you dress better, just a little bit, you shower a lot more often. You're more cognizant about your hygiene. You're more
You fix your hair.
basically, and even flossing, dude. A lot of people don't floss, and you can smell it, and it's just ugh. So stuff like that is simple, but you can be raggedy and still get some tail. But at the end, that's my advice. Don't be unattractive, and also don't be unattractive. But to add on to it, you also need to work on yourself more than anything.
Right. I was about to say that.
It's
Yeah.
not. It's easier said than done, obviously, where working on yourself. But you have to ask yourself, why is this craving so desirable? Is it that you want a relationship? Is there something in the past that you've experienced that is pushing you to get this to get this validation in the form of a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Is there something wrong with your family, your friends? I guess it sort of helps with me that I was blessed to be raised in a household where the family values are strong and we all give each other love. So I actively didn't seek out that, especially even now. I constantly don't seek it out. I'm fine the way I am, but even finding a good group of friends who genuinely just care about one another, it's so uplifting. It honestly is. So that's really it with This whole that's one of the things I got out of the MGTOW movement is just, hey man, you got your brothers are there, and if you're just honest with them, they'll take care of you. Um, which is why, since we're talking about this, I kind of don't like commercialized holidays like Valentine's. So stuff like, oh, you have to buy a card, you have to do this, this and that. I feel like if I want to give you something, like I'll give it out any time of the day, any time of the year. Honestly, I give my parents stuff randomly every now and then, and it's the small things that really matter. Not so much about, hey, it's a holiday, hey, it's a birthday, hey, it's this, and that. You must do this, and it just turns you off. Much like as it's much like I'm on my way to walk towards the kitchen to do the dishes, and then my mom says, hey, go wash the dishes. I just get so turned off once she says that because my mood was already there
Yeah.
to wash the dishes or do this or that, and then she tells me to do it. It's just like, I'll still do it, but it's just,
Yeah. But now it doesn't feel like I'm doing the good thing because I'm helping out my mom. It's more like, oh, she told me to do it. No, I have to do it or I get punished.
It's not even helping out. Like, it's just you being responsible, and that
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
reward that you get from feeling satisfied on doing a task, that chore, that whatever it is, and then someone tells you to do it, you're just like, well, that ruined my mood. But it's me mainly. If you just tell me to do something, if I'm in my house and you just tell me to go do that one thing. In contrast, like if I go to work, that's something completely different. If at my job they tell me, hey, go do this, obviously the circumstances are different. But yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think that at the end of the day, you need to work on the way I like to look at it is like learn to love yourself before you can start loving others. Because if you don't like yourself, it's going to be very difficult to show that love to other people.
Also, some people don't like this that I'm about to bring up, and some people do. But sometimes, at least with my previous experiences in relationship, I like to, much like if you leave at a restaurant, right? I like to clean the table. I like to leave the place better than what I make the everything better, and leave the place better than what it is and how I left it, right? Or hold up, let me go back on that. I like to leave the spot better than how I did when I first came in there. So like a room, I'll try to clean up a room, so then when I leave, it looks better. So like if I'm at someone's house, I'm gonna clean up after myself and maybe a little more, just to make the room look a little better, to show that, hey, I actually care.
Right.
People need to have that mentality on themselves. I'm not saying they should, but it helps where you go into a relationship and you want to not only better yourself in one way, but you want to better the person as well. In my experience with all
Right.
my relationships, like I don't know how many people how to drive. I taught
You taught me how to
right.
drive.
And even to park. I've taught a lot of people.
Yep.
And even in my previous relationships, I taught people how to park, and yeah, park and drive. They get their licenses. We celebrate, and then these people being well, with my exes, I should say. I would tell them, all right, cool, you get your license. All right, let's go change a tire. And they're like, what? I don't want to change a tire. I was like, well, you're gonna be stuck one day in the middle of the highway, not knowing how to do this, waiting for someone to do it for you, and you're gonna waste an hour of your life because you didn't want to learn this basic skill. It's I want to improve this person, not as because I'm a boyfriend. I just want this person to grow and be dependable.
Yeah.
You know. Um,
So in case like if you're not in the relationship, that at least that experience will stay forever.
Right, and there's some people who hate this, who don't want to, who basically act as a parental role or someone who can take care of someone else, or there's some people who don't like that, and I get that. But I've been more of the way to not being all righteous or anything, saying, oh, I could take care of you. I'm talking more about like I want to help you develop yourself to be
Yeah.
a better human, a better person.
You're not doing it like, oh, I'll change the tire, baby. You don't have to worry about it. You're my sweetheart. You're my sunshine. It's like, no, you're like, hey, listen, just so you know, I'm not always gonna be here. Not sense saying I'm leaving you, but in sort of sense might not be in the car with you. I might be at work,
Right.
at home, or
Right,
something.
and that's
And if your tire pops, you need to get this knowledge.
obviously there's AAA.
You change the
Obviously
tire.
there's AAA, and it exists. But I just want to make sure everything is swell, because who knows? Maybe one day I'm at work, or someone else is at someone who's dependable that you can depend on is at work, and then your tire goes out, and you're like, oh well, snap. What do I do now? And you're stuck there not knowing what to do because you don't know how to change a simple tire, which granted not a lot of people know how to do. I'm not giving them flack for doing it. Just you can be
Yeah.
dependable and stuff, but when it comes to relationships, it's mainly about, hey, you don't want to be an incomplete vessel. You don't want to be a someone who isn't ready for a relationship with a how should I say this, with another human being, where you're coming in with this toxic mentality of like, oh, they have to be perfect, they have to be like this or like that, where you're not so special yourself. You're not the cream of the crop either. So it's really more about what can you gain from this relationship and what can you give as well. Because if it's a constant just giving, I mean, just taking, or just constantly giving, then that's not a 50-50 relationship. That's just someone doing all the legwork.
One-sided.
Yeah.
It's incredibly one-sided. Yeah. Yeah, man. So yeah, fellas out there, stay with your homies, love yourself, love other people, value yourself, work on yourself. Please, don't be a simpleton. Just it's not worth it, man. These people aren't worth it. I'm not talking about just girls. I'm talking about guys. Whoever you're pursuing after, you have to tell yourself, fuck it. This is not gonna work out. I'm not gonna break my back over it. It ain't worth
Right.
it.
I will
So
say
yeah,
though
that's
about commercialized holidays. Since I brought it up a bit, Christmas is pretty commercialized, especially
oh,
especially the
absolutely.
part where,
It's absolutely.
well, at least one thing that we can all get out of it is the Christmas music, right? Because that's one
Yeah, of
thing
course.
everyone.
Hey man, Last Christmas is my only Christmas song I can listen to every day of the year, so I don't really
Which
care.
one? Oh, the one that were
With Wham.
it give you my heart or something like that. Yeah.
That
Okay.
one. The Wham I remember Wham Opolis, or basically you're not supposed to hear the song for the longest time, and it's fucking hard because I remember the first time I heard about that game, I was working at a mall, and of course they had that song on fucking loop. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I could listen to that jam any day of the week. But yeah, so you're saying commercialized Christmas? Yeah, it's crazy. Do you ever notice that like Thanksgiving never gets fucking talked about? No one gives a shit about
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Well, okay. So in Canada, it's a different experience because their Thanksgiving is in October. So yeah.
Oh.
So what's crazy about Thanksgiving in America is that after Halloween, um, before in America, once Thanksgiving finished, the market was filled with Christmas stuff, but they kept
Oh
pushing.
yeah, Christmas aftermath.
Yeah, they kept pushing and pushing earlier the Christmas decoration, the Christmas advertisements, because I heard a theory about why it's called Black Friday, because for the most part, these big industries run in the red, and when it's that time to buy Christmas presents, they're no longer in the red, which means they're not below $0. They are now in
Yeah.
the black, right? So in your bank account, right, if you withdraw too much and you pass zero, your bank account is at red. It's at negative whatever number is, that you took out or that's missing.
Yeah.
So you're in the red. So the theory that I heard, the why it's called Black Friday, is because of that stores are able to give you these bargains because people want to get Christmas presents. Once they want to give out Christmas presents, so they
To get it out of the way as quickly as possible.
Basically.
And it helps too that these big box stores are saying, hey, I know you need them Christmas gifts, and it's after Thanksgiving, and that fucking holiday passed. Now you got the big one. You got to make sure you get all them kids them new PlayStations, and that wife a new fucking massage chair that she fucking wants. Here it is on
that's
sale.
why okay, so it's different for Canada, like I said, because their Thanksgiving is in October, so they have a whole 2 months of like you got to prepare for Christmas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which honestly, it being commercialized, I don't like. It's just a me thing. But at the same time, one thing that at least I can get out of is music. But can you recall the last time a new Christmas song was like a hit that they played every year? Obviously, I like looking at the analytics, Google Analytics, of right when it starts reaching December, of
Uh
Mariah
huh.
Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You," like you could see the Google Analytics, and right when it hits December, you could see the Google Analytics raising up, and then people post memes of saying it's coming and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it,
I think my favorite is the video about the guy who's just like, "Sweetie, sweetie, stay in the room. Jimmy, go get the gun. Get the gun." And it's Mariah Carey singing on the roof.
dude. Look, I get it, but it's just the Christmas songs are cool. I like them,
Yeah.
and just music as a whole, like especially for Halloween music, like people playing the Nightmare Before Christmas, um, all sorts of what was it?
You said Halloween music?
Yeah, Halloween music.
Oh, dude, I'd be fucking playing like Castlevania,
Right.
Friday the 13th, the Shining soundtrack. Oh, easily.
So, but when it comes to Christmas music, like, can you recall when was the last like the most recent like hit Christmas music that everyone's like always listening to and whatnot? Because I can't recall.
I guess I don't know. Like, here's a better question: When was the last time someone made a Christmas album?
Oh, look at that. Yeah, you're right. I can't think of anything. Damn.
Yeah, like that's another thing. You know, back then they'll be like, "Hey, we got to make an album, and it all has to be the same fucking theme about Christmas." I was looking up some guys like vinyl collection for the Jackson 5, and I forgot. Oh yeah, they made a Christmas album, and you know you got Wham, and I was just thinking about like I don't know, maybe because like with Christmas, it you know. I think it's because like just either you make an original song, which is way more difficult, or you do a cover of a more popular
Mhm.
song. You know, like a lot of artists even nowadays still sing Christmas music, usually around the time. Um,
Mhm.
as far as like commercializing it, I can't think of any at the top of my mind.
Because all I know is that you have your Frank Sinatra's, you have your Mariah Carey's, you have
You got Wham.
Wham, right? So you hear these songs on repeat, right? And obviously people say, "Oh, Christmas music is all about the whole Christmas music and stuff." So, um, it's not a real Christmas if there's no music. I don't know, dude. I get
I
maybe it's
mean,
me.
what about like Christmas caroling
Maybe
and
it's
shit?
me. Maybe it's me that I can't listen to too much of a genre for too long. Like like
Mm.
my mom would what was it would listen to her her music, and I'm fine with it. But like after a month, and it's just don't you get tired of it a bit? Maybe it's because of the age that we live in, where we have all the music we can get at the just at the click of a button. You got your Spotify's, you have your Pandora's, you have your YouTubes. You can listen to whatever the heck you want because it's right there. Maybe I'm just spoiled in that way that like, hey, I want to listen to different genres of music, but um, I appreciate Christmas music, I really do, but I'm not. I don't know. It's one of those. It's one of those genres where I'm like, I'm glad it's only. What is it? I'm glad it's only super popular one time a year and not throughout the rest of the year. But
Yeah,
that's me
I
thinking.
get. I guess yeah, like you said, it's all about how the timing and things like that. But to me, like I said, Wham's Last Christmas, I could listen
Mhm.
to it any day of the year. I do not care. It is a banger of a song
Mhm.
right there. But you know what? Since we talked a little bit about music
Mhm.
lately, I have been going through a little bit of a musical
Mhm.
journey. Everyone. Now I'm pretty sure you probably see me like shove it in everybody's face. I've been posting it on Twitter lately, but I recently got myself into vinyl collecting. I've always been fascinated with vinyl records. I always tell myself, man, I really want to, you know, own some of my favorite albums on vinyl. You know, like I think everybody remembered that time around, I want to say like the early 2010s when vinyl suddenly picked up to be, you know, popular, mainly with
Yeah.
hipsters and mainly white girls that want to buy records and just hang them up on the wall
Or
and
from
never
their
really
ceiling.
listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And don't get me wrong, like I think vinyl walls are cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But it was you know, it was kind of like I don't want to say a gimmick, but it definitely was like trendy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And and you know I didn't think much of it back then. But recently I just been very fascinated about like listening to music. I've been listening to a lot of music lately, ever since I got Spotify Premium, which I like. I really, really do. But lately I've been like, man, I want to physically hold, you know, a piece of music, like with any physical media, like I've always said this before, like originally I was gonna go 100% digital on my movies and TV shows, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go 100% digital. But then people said like, well, yeah, you know, you gain from convenience from streaming services. You also lose in a sense of quality and possession at that
Right.
point, because you know at any moment your movie could be removed from Netflix and then you have to buy another subscription service. I mean, I have HBO Max and I, you know, it has Fresh Prince of Bel Air, but if you have a VPN service, you could, you know, tune in to, I think, UK Netflix, and you get, you know, Fresh Prince right
Yeah.
there. But that's another fee you have to pay to gain access to it. So to me, I rather be like, fuck it. If I like something so much, I'm just gonna own it physically. So I always have a personal possession of it. I my own copy. Good example. And you know, I know some people say, but Danny, don't you play PC games? Aren't all your games digitally on PC? Yes, it's true, but that's just because there's really no reason to get it physically, because they don't sell them, and even if you do buy a physical copy, you get a digital code
Right.
anyways. A good example is I think I said this a couple times already, but I bought Scott Pilgrim digitally on Uplay because I wanted to play the game now, but I made sure to buy a physical copy as well through Limited Run Games, which I'm still waiting for my copy to get here because I really
Yeah.
like it. So going back to music, I've been digging into a lot of, like, I've been mainly doing a lot of discography discoveries. I like to do it, as I call it. I like to like dig into the first records or the first albums of a band. For example, I've been listening to the first 4 albums of Black Sabbath. I love Black Sabbath's early catalog. I've listened to their later stuff, you know, with their last album with Ozzy Osbourne, their stuff when they had Ronnie James Dio, and it sounds phenomenal. But I was like, man, I want to own it. I want to play it. And I never went with the idea with vinyl to be like, oh, this is the audiophile format. This is the one that's going to sound, you know, drastically different. And at the time of this recording, I can't say for sure if that's true or not. I've always factored that in, that could be either a form of compression, because after all, a streaming service needs to compress that media in order to be streamed over to your cellular device, without a doubt, right? And at this point, like, I've only listened to 1 album on my record player, which I got to on the day of recording. That was my little Valentine's gift to myself. And I've only listened to 1 record, which was Revolver by the Beatles, and it sounded great. It was actually pretty cool, like, actually listening to a record. You know, when people are telling me that, like, oh man, like, when you get a record, you got to like play it and you're gonna hear those snap pops and things like that. That's not entirely true. You could just wipe the record and clean it up, and it'll just sound like it's a brand new record. Like, it sounds brand new and
By
sounds
cleaning,
phenomenal.
just mean with just a regular rag, just or
No, 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 no. What you do, because I bought like a record cleaning kit. You get like a brush, some solution. It's supposed to like wipe it down and clean out the dirt and the grooves of a record, essentially, right? Because that's essentially where you hear the snack and crackle and pop. It's that if there's dirt and there's like shit in the grooves of the record, your needle is gonna pick it up and it's gonna sound a little
okay.
bit. So generally speaking, whenever I play a record, I would pull it out, do a quick wipe around it, and then I would put it on the turntable and I'll just play it, and it sounds great. Like, I'll be listening to it, I'm like, man, I'm not hearing all that static shit that people are telling me I'm expecting to hear, and it's supposed to be the vinyl experience. Granted, this is coming from a guy who's bought all my records brand new. I haven't bought like any used
Okay.
ones from any like record stores or stuff, but generally speaking, you should just clean your records, because records sound phenomenal even from the original pressings if you just clean them up, you know.
I like the idea of records and owning physical stuff, just any media physically, like video games even. Something about owning a physical game is just, I'll buy it for some games, not for all games, but that's just a me thing. I totally agree with your thing about if you buy something on PC and it's digital, but a service goes down, and you own the subscription, but you don't own the media that you're watching, that you're actually watching it for. And that's always a reason why I
Absolutely.
didn't like these streaming services like Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, because I'm like, I guess I can pay a subscription, or I can just own the original, like the original. Oh, what was it? The original Disney movies, like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, all these Disney films. I can go to someone's house even that they just want to watch Disney films, and I'm all for it. I don't care. Even The Incredibles, but the convenience of streaming, the convenience of just having that music there, is top notch, especially with smartphones. It's just,
Yeah.
I get that. But if you're at home, you're just chilling, you have a record player, and you're just chilling at home. That's something completely different, obviously. You're watching TV, maybe having a little audio in the background. Nothing beats that. Or maybe having a party. Same thing. The one thing I will say about records and CDs, I just feel like it's a shame that it's a dying industry, but it is what it is with technological advancements. But I've seen some pretty cool dedication to some of these vinyls, like how some people make what's that called when you play it when a vinyl has a when you play it in reverse. It's called back something. I can't remember.
Well, there is a record. There's a guy called Jack White. I haven't heard his music, but I've heard about this album called Lazaretto. It's really a fascinating experience. Okay, so when you put the record down, I don't know if you, well, to my audience who maybe my younger generation, if you guys don't know what a record is, it's that big black disc you might see at a 50s store restaurant theme and things like that. Because admittedly, I grew up through the LimeWire era. I grew up through the iTunes era, so I didn't collect physical
LimeWire
music.
Viruses, hell yeah.
As a kid. But basically speaking, like Marcos, if you don't know what I'm talking about, when you put a record down, it depends on the size. If it's an LP, it's a 12-inch. If it's a single, it's a smaller disc, so it's 7 inches, but it has a way bigger hole in it. You're supposed to put an adapter in it so it plays on your record. Now, because you have less surface area, you put the record. Normally on an LP, you put it at 33 1/3, right? That's like the standard rotation of the record as it's playing on the needle. With a single, because there's less surface area, you speed it up just a little bit. You put it on 45s. So you put it at 45 minutes per revolutions per minute. And with Lazaretto, what you're supposed to do is that I'm pretty sure you know that when you pick up the needle, you put it on the first intro groove, essentially, and it plays going towards the center, right? And then later it goes back. But what this guy does is that there's 2 hidden songs, or I think it might be... Oh, no. It's that one side of the vinyl, you play it outside going in, and then you play the other side inside going out.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So you essentially spin the record the other way around. And then there's another thing where there's 2 hidden songs in the album, where if you play the song on 33, it sounds normal. But when you speed it up, it actually plays a different song.
Okay.
So this guy was like, from what I've read, he's like super hardcore. I want to keep vinyl as existing as possible, and he tries to make his records like way more of an experience to have. You're getting some extra, because it's one thing to be like, oh, here's a song on Spotify, whoopity doo. This is kind of cool. It's like, hey, did you know if you put the song at this speed, it plays a different song? That's kind of cool.
I was thinking more about like if you play, what was it, Eminem, and the song what's it called, Slim Shady, where it goes, my name is what, my name is who, and then Slim Shady. When you reverse it, it says I'm Eminem, but it's not because Slim Shady, him saying all that backwards is Eminem, it's because it's in the disc itself saying that, hey, we're gonna put this in there so if you play it backwards, you'll still hear the song, and it says something else, stuff like that.
I remember Marilyn Manson did something similar like that too.
It's just that attention to detail is so nice, and I'm like, this is it's something that I like seeing, this whole attention to detail, this whole we're gonna really invest into this type of experience for fans, just making it better overall, and I like it. I really do. And one thing about vinyls that I do enjoy is the aesthetics of it, which is why you brought up the point about when vinyls were getting popular again, were hipsters and basic white girls, right? It looks good as an aesthetic piece, not hanging it on the wall or anything. Stuff like, maybe if you bought like, I don't know, you know how they sell like, if your album goes platinum, it's a vinyl record that's in a casing and it has your album, like that is aesthetically pleasing. But if it's just a regular vinyl, then like, I don't know, that just, I feel like that just doesn't look as good. But seeing a record player with a vinyl already on it, it's just so much, it's just a lot more aesthetically pleasing. Especially those vinyl records that have the plastic covering or glass coverings to protect it from dust.
Yeah, the dust cover.
That is just, you could see it, it's standing on top of a speaker. It looks good. It really looks good.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's definitely pretty cool seeing that, spinning around and with the needle, and just like it's just like that processing. We take, if you're like me and you grew up when CDs were the normal thing, we don't really take things in consideration. Where it's like you put the disc in, it goes in the tray, and you don't see the disc doing anything. You just see a laser reading it. But when you see that record spinning on that needle, it's like, man, this music is coming from that record, going through that needle, and then going to my speaker system. That's just crazy to me, man. Like, that's how I felt when I first held my first vinyl I ever bought was Black Sabbath. I was like, man, I am holding a disc, a big 12-inch in diameter disc that has probably one of the best doom metal music ever written in my hand. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to school, you learn about, at least in my field, you learn about radio transmissions and speaking into a microphone, and it's being transmitted to an antenna, which sends out a signal. Someone receives it, and it goes out to a speaker. And knowing how all this works puts into perspective how crazy our life is in society, where there's radio towers, where there's all this crazy wireless communications going around million times per second. And then when you go something as simple as a record player, where the disc has its own conductive film in it, record comes in, detects that, and starts reading, physically reading the disc itself, the information that's being played on this, that's been put on this disc, and transfers that data into the speakers. It receives it, and boom, you get your sound. And a lot of people are like, wow, how does this happen? It's kind of a headache to learn a little bit if you don't know the electronics principles about electricity and data, but it's quite nice, honestly. Just I get that feeling completely. It's super nice, it's super cool, and it's just in your hands. It's just ready to be put out, which is why I kind of like how some people are still producing music, and they get that they have an audience that prefers these vinyls, and they just release it this way. And I think that's pretty rad.
Yeah, you'll be surprised that still artists to this day will still like release stuff on vinyl. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it is a limited release. Yeah. But you could still, for example, I was kind of bummed. I was like, oh, did Tyler the Creator ever release stuff on vinyl? I knew Flower Boy came out on vinyl, and I heard that Igor was getting like this really. I know I'm probably gonna piss off a lot of people, but I'm not the biggest fan of the limited edition version, at least the cover art of Igor, which is his last album. It's okay. It's a limited edition release, which usually this is why you gotta like follow these artists on Twitter and stuff, because they'll announce like, hey, I'm dropping new limited edition vinyl here, buy it now. Creator, Igor. I'm sorry, I'm looking this.
It's fine. One thing vinyl. I do like about certain creators is how they really really put some like interesting goodies with their vinyls if you buy the vinyls.
Yeah,
and that's like a little extra plus.
Oh yeah, like I have right here. I just right before I went to recording for the podcast today, I just went to Best Buy and I picked up some new records, and I picked up Sgt. Pepper's, and I know in this fucking packaging there's like a bunch of stuff here. I also picked up Prince's Purple Rain. I gotta hear Purple Rain on my vinyl setup, and it comes with a free poster and everything. And yeah, I posted it in the chat, Marcos. Sure. If you want to see it, that's like the limited edition. Like right now, that thing goes for like $300.
Oh damn. But you see,
yeah.
Okay, for those who are just listening, obviously everyone's listening. This vinyl is green. It's like a teal coloring on the vinyl itself, and the center is obviously the album. Stuff like that, I've always enjoyed. I've heard some people not like it. They prefer the original black.
Yeah, that's mainly like an audiophile argument. It's always been a debate for years if they said that like, oh, does color vinyl affect the sound? I think it's more like I want to argue again. Maybe I'm probably wrong. I can't prove it 100%, but from what I've done the research and from what I've heard, generally speaking, it's like if you kept telling everyone black vinyl sounds better than color vinyl, everyone will just keep that mantra going forever and ever, and people will just accept it. Right, but at the end of the day, unless the vinyl special edition vinyl is made on some ridiculous non-vinyl formula like not PVC, then again, I could be wrong. Please, if I'm wrong, just correct me. Generally speaking, it sounds exactly the same. But they still will tell you that like a good example, like back in the day I was gonna pre-order the Sonic CD soundtrack on vinyl because I love that
It's one of the
soundtrack, right?
best.
And in the option selection they said, okay, you could pick the limited blue edition or the regular black edition. It has the same sleeve and everything, but there's just two different colors for the two different records. I remember it in the text in the bottom would say colored vinyl may sound slightly different than black vinyl. If you prefer buying music 100% for just the music quality, stick to black
Hmm.
vinyl. But from what I've heard, I heard that exactly it sounds exactly the same. So I'm not against the idea of buying colored vinyl, especially if it's the only way to get it. You know, if a record comes out and there's only in blue, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it because there's nothing I could do
Right.
about it. It's only came out in blue, and if the sounds the same, it sounds the
Right.
fucking same. So yeah, as I showed Marcos, yeah, the Tyler the Creator limited edition vinyl is this very crude drawing of Igor essentially, but it also has a teal color
Super
to it.
nice.
But at Best Buy, you could pick up the original pink on black, black on pink Igor album for like $20, and I felt like, okay, I like this design a little bit more. Even though I love this album, I much prefer like the standard edition, you know. But that record alone goes for like $300 on Discogs, which is a website I recommend if you want to keep track of
At
collecting
least
music.
these vinyls, it's just much like what I said earlier about aesthetics in general. At least these
Mm-hmm.
limited edition, different colored vinyls that aren't black, they just look a whole lot more better. Much better, I should say. Um, and it catches the eye. It really does, and
Oh,
I
yeah, absolutely.
quite
Yeah.
enjoy it. That's why I, at least in my opinion, that if you like something just because it looks nice, especially nowadays where people think that, hey, just because it's colored, it has a different sound to it. If you want that, just go listen to it on digital. If it really pushes your button that much. Um, but if you want to support the creator, if you want to have a physical piece of something that's limited, then and that's up to you. Spend your money however you wish. But at the end of the day, it's just um, it's not that big of a deal when it comes to music quality. Maybe back in the days, sure, but like I said before, how all of our music, all of our media is at just a button press away, a button just a click away. Hey, there you go. You got your, you have your high quality, high, what is it? Yeah, highest fidelity of quality. That here you go. You don't have to complain about anything. Is that wait? Is that the casing or is that the actual vinyl?
No, actually, I was about to say if your main concern is sound quality, yeah, if you're worried about if something is on the vinyl itself and does it affect the sound quality, then what you have to avoid, like the plague, is a picture
Yeah.
disc. Essentially, what it is, it's a record, but it has a picture on it. Now, at first, it looks kind of dope. I didn't personally like it, especially when it covers the entire album. If it's like on the side or it's not the full record, okay, that's fine. But when it's like a complete picture, it looks really weird. This is what you want to avoid if you are buying records for the sound quality, because picture discs do actively affect the sound quality. Because it's just a fucked up in the design standpoint. As someone described, it's pretty simple. Imagine a sandwich, right? So the way how they make a picture disc is that they would take a piece of plastic, then they would put the picture underneath it, and then they would get a puck, which turns into the vinyl, and then they press it like really, 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 really hard,
Mm.
right? And that makes the record. But the problem is though, is that the needle has to read the groove through the plastic essentially, and so because of it, it's not getting like directly onto the groove itself, so it sounds noticeably
Well,
worse. Now I can't
I
do any comparisons myself, but generally speaking, the rule of thumb is that you avoid picture disc, which is what I'm avoiding. I try to avoid picture disc at all costs. I am not going to play a picture disc on my album on my turntable
well, I
if I
think
could.
more than anything, this is a like one of those things where you don't play, you just have it. Um, many other forms of media are come the same way. It's something that you rather not play on, and you'd rather preserve. You rather preserve it and just
Yeah.
have it, right? Much like when someone has like, hey, I have this limited edition. I don't know. Let's just say you have a limited edition pop figure, right? You don't want to open it up, which you can, but you don't want to. Or you have I'm not sure, maybe a limited edition earphone because you're really interested in, I don't know, Beats, and Beats came out with a limited edition headphone, you're not gonna wear it. You're just gonna have it. Same thing with shoes, right? You would collect a shoe, not wear it, wait until the price of it rises up because the supply and demand. Obviously, there's correlation between the two. The demand will go up, and so will the price. And you're not gonna put on the shoe. Stuff like that, you know. Things like even Cabbage Patch Kids, where they
Beanie
Beanie
Babies.
Babies, where you don't want to play with them, you want to take them out of the case because guess what? You keep it in the casing and it makes money. It stays. It's worth. It holds its worth, and if anything, it gets even more expensive as time goes on. So maybe a vinyl like this, where Michael Jackson's 25th, what is it, 25th anniversary?
Yes, this was the Thriller 25th
Right.
anniversary
This is
re-release.
not one that you would play. Which obviously that would make
No.
sense that you wouldn't want to play it. But at the end of the day, you know, it's nice to have. It's nice to have it in a case, have it somewhere where you can, yeah,
On display, in my
Right.
opinion. Like, that's the only appeal of picture disc to me, is that if you're having it on display, great, but if you're like me, you're trying to buy records to listen to them, not to just
I
have them on
always
display.
thought that these picture vinyls had the picture in the back, and then the face
What do you
that
mean?
you play does not have the picture. So the back of the vinyl, which is the part you don't play, has the picture, and then
No, on a record, you play
right,
both
you
sides.
can play both sides if it comes with it, you know. But you can just flip it around and just play it the part that doesn't have the picture. That's what I'm trying to get at.
No. Like, on a record, there's two
Right.
sides. You flip, like, you go to side A and you go to
Right,
side
right.
B.
What I'm trying to get at is side A is the one that plays the music, right? It has nothing but music. But when you flip it,
Oh, yeah, but then it'll have a different track list.
right,
You're missing half
that's
the
what I'm
album
trying
at
to
that
get
point.
That's what I'm trying. That's what I thought.
okay.
These picture vinyls did. That's what that they
Okay.
tried to achieve, I should say. But that's just me
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah, to me, I'm trying to avoid it. Like, it's for me, like, going with Michael Jackson. I'm trying to get his last album before he passed away, which was Invincible. It was 2001, and by that point, vinyl was already kind of like fading out. So you could easily find that album, Invincible, with a picture disc, but I don't want to get it. But there is a limited release of a simple black double LP that I'm trying to get, but it's, hard to get right now. But you know what? Let's keep talking about music, actually, because I actually have a lot to say about music. Marcos and me, I mean, mainly with me, I grew up in the day and age where CDs were still the popular format, but around the time I was like in late elementary to middle school, that's when like iTunes and LimeWire and torrenting services, that's when music became much more accessible through less than legal means, but it was way more accessible. This was back then before everybody's music was, you could YouTube music. For example, I, for the life of me, couldn't listen to a single Prince song because Prince, back when he was alive, made it difficult to listen to his music unless it was officially through him. You had to either get the record, watch his movies, or you had to pay for it, essentially, right? Same thing with the Beatles. Like, back in the day, you couldn't listen to the Beatles because the Beatles were very tight-knit about how they could put their music readily available. Just before Spotify and all these, like, music services came along and say, hey, pay $10 a month and you'll have access to the music. But back then, it was, if I want to get into a band, I have to torrent their discography and be like, oh, I'm going to listen to all of Paul McCartney and boop, play it right there. And the thing is about, like, with music, I like to compare with, like, with Netflix. Is like, on one hand, it's cool to have access to music. I have no problem paying for Spotify Premium. I love Spotify. I think Spotify has not only helped me curate my library, but it's also helped me discover music that I probably wouldn't have before without its pretty good algorithm. I give it credit. I would have never given a lot of music a try, but I let Spotify do the work, and I'll be like, hey, I like the song. I'm gonna dig into this band's catalog. I listened to Nirvana. I've discovered Alice in Chains, grunge music. I take risks more with Spotify because you're paying for it. You have access to the music. But on the other hand, though, I argue that music nowadays, because everybody has so many ways to access it through free or paying through a cheaper subscription service. Like, when was the last time you went to a store to buy an album that came out?
Yeah, that's true. That's if people who love the band really go out and actually buy the album that they want to do so.
Yeah, or just even just taking a chance, like like maybe you're at the record store, you might find a vinyl of the Swedish band that looked kind of neat, and you take it home because the cover attracted you,
Right.
and that's the thing. I've argued that music nowadays, especially with streaming services and things like that, I argued that music is more expendable. You come out with a hot new track and it doesn't really stay that long because if people don't like the music or the music fades away, it goes on its merry way. But if you like the song on the radio or you like the band, you would drive to the store, pick up the CD and listen to it, and there's that more of that personal connection with it. But on streaming, you just hear a track and you're like, okay, that was cool, you move on the
Right.
merry
Well,
way.
that's the same argument about like the back in my day. Right. As technology advances, as society changes as well, with when it comes to you know music, right? It's gonna change. Things will change when it comes to the advancement of technology. So, back like you just said,
Hmm.
radio. Do you often listen to radio when you're
Fuck,
driving?
dude, I don't remember the last time I even watched cable TV, let alone
Right.
radio.
So it's the same argument there. Whereas like where uh, TV ratings are going down because people don't care about TV subscriptions. Maybe unless you want to watch sports, but even then, you can pay sports subscriptions to watch it online. Especially
Hmm.
since in 2020 it became a little bit more easier because everyone was stuck at home, and they needed a service
Yeah.
to do just that. So it's the same argument. I get your point of view on this, but it's one of where it was a nice time, it was a nice era, but it's just a passing of time. It's
Yeah.
it's something that happens to every industry where things are just gonna keep going, keep getting obsolete because
Right.
it's no longer technologically convenient. You can look at payphones. A lot of people don't know how to operate payphones at times, and they're like, "Oh, well, damn. How do I use this dinosaur of an equipment?" Because there's no touchscreen, there's no this, and that. People tend to forget that payphones were what was it? You put in a quarter, you have a set amount of time to talk to on the phone, and you just did just that. But when was the last time you saw a payphone on the street?
Uh, One time before the last standing Kmart I know is still around.
Right. So stuff like that. It's just
So it's been a
it's been
while.
a while. So it is what it is. It's just the passing of time. But I get your feelings. It's definitely relatable. Where
Mhm.
you're listening to a song on the radio and you're like, dang, dude, the song slapped, and I can't recall what's called because the the radio host said it once and I wasn't paying attention, and then dang, dude, I'm mad. Where you could that's no longer the case, because if you are listening to the radio and you are listening to a song you like and you don't know what the name is, you can just go to their website and they tell you, hey, this is the last thing we played. Or even better yet, you can just use Shazam on your phone and figure out what it's called, and then you can go about your merry way, listening to that song on Shazam, and then going on YouTube or even Spotify, just to, um, just to listen to that one song that you listen to, and then you get to listen to the whole album. But even then, yeah, I don't remember the last time I used radio because of Bluetooth. It's basically obsoleted radio, because before, when we were kids, all we wanted was a car with a good radio. Then auxiliary cables
Mhm.
came out. And you're like, dang, all I want now is a
Pass me the
yeah,
aux,
basically
bro.
that, right? So all I want is a car that has a good radio and I can play aux. Then it became just aux because the smartphones, right? And you could have your
Yeah.
catalog, or even iPods. You could just have your entire list of music just there. Then it went from aux to Bluetooth because the Bluetooth convenience is there. Everything is wireless. You don't have to connect. I'm not sure if you recall, Daniel, but like if you had a crappy aux cable where you have to stick it in the jack,
Oh, you have to hold the
yeah,
cable
and
the
then
right
spin
way.
it in place just so it can make contact.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
those.
So as technology goes, obviously, um,
The funny thing is that you mentioned like all we want is radios to have aux
yeah,
cables and
back
stuff.
then, yeah,
Your brother gave me the soundtrack to Persona 5, right, on
right,
CD, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be really cool to listen to in my car. My car doesn't even have a CD player in it. It only has radio and Bluetooth.
Wow.
That's it.
Look at that.
It doesn't even. I remember I thought about this. Like, wow, this thing doesn't even read
Right.
CDs.
So there you go.
Yeah, I agree. It is a time of the changes and stuff, and granted, I'm not against it. I'm not, trying to be a bitter old man. Like, I miss the days when I used to get computer viruses on LimeWire and stuff. Like, no, I get it. Spotify is pretty dope. I think that it's a nice middle, and I think we have to thank for that. I think we have to thank, piracy in a sort of way. When I think we all remember the Napster era, when back then, if you wanted to listen to one song, you had to buy an entire record or CD. You just need to download Napster back then, and I think we hit a nice middle ground where it's like, hey, you pay $10 a month and you have access to an entire music catalog,
Right.
and it's readily available for you. But for me, I'll keep collecting vinyl because I just love music so much. I want to own it and I want to physically hold it and play it on my setup, and it sounds pretty good.
I think
So
I think
definitely,
with these streaming services has really put, at least it's sort of restricted in a way, the piracy. Yeah, the world.
yeah, because there's really no need to anymore.
Right. You still can if you wanted to, but
Oh yeah, of course. But it's like, is there like, do you really want to do it? Like, would you rather just pay $10 a month and
no.
potentially not get
Well, the
butt fucked by the
subscription is just
by the-
for no ads, though. That's
Yeah,
really it.
true. And you could still technically watch everything on YouTube, but some people, if you're like me, you hate ads when you're driving in your car, and the last thing you want to hear on Spotify is like, want to break from the ads?
That's why it's even radio stations seems less interesting, less attractive because they still have their advertisements, their commercials.
Which they need them.
Obviously.
They definitely
Obviously,
need them.
right. So about pirating. I mean, back then, obviously, I thought, yeah, I don't care about pirating because these guys make a crap ton of money because they make music and stuff. Look how many millions they sell. Only to find out that later
Yeah.
is that most of these label companies are really predatory and they're just like really, really greedy with the contracts where
Oh yeah.
they'll only give you so much. They'll only give you, like, you can make $100,000 and they'll only give you 5,000 because they have to cover their costs for X, Y, and Z for their publishing, for their company that they have to contract with to do CDs and advertisement and all that stuff. You have to pay the company itself, pay the employees who are with you, your manager, yada yada yada, and all you're left with is 5,000. So when I got older, I'm like, damn, I feel like a piece of crap for pirating these songs, but at least music streaming it's a clever way to go around that, because if you have internet, at least it's a way around it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that streaming is a nice middle ground. I'm still gonna keep my Spotify subscription. I'm not gonna like completely get rid of it. I do think it has a purpose, but when I'm here at home and I feel like fuck it, I want to listen to Purple Rain, I'm just gonna slap on that turntable and just enjoy it and appreciate the music a lot more, in my opinion. Because when you're physically holding it, it's there, it's history. You're holding it, But yeah, music, it's great. It keeps the world
The
going.
one thing I would love anyone to go into the music industry. It's fine, but much like any other industry where people can get famous, you got to be careful with that because people will try to trick you. They'll try to sell you snake oil. So it's
Yeah, definitely take advantage of you. There's, yeah, it definitely is a really fucked up situation. Not just music; it's just any industry. The best advice I could give you: do as much research as possible and know more than the guy that's telling you he knows more than you, because knowledge is power. And look, we were talking about like Michael Jackson. I tell this to people all the time. Even his childlike mindset and wonder, the dude's a genius. He knows music and business more than anybody else than you might think. He sucks up all that information and keeps it to himself. He never signs a contract with just being like, oh yeah, this totally other's gonna. No, he knows everything.
Dude,
so
have you seen some of these contracts that like advertising agents like or companies just give out? Just like, hey, we'll advertise our like, what was it? A sponsor. There we go, sponsor. My bad.
Yeah.
You just gotta advertise our stuff, and then you gotta sign this 30-page contract. You gotta sign here, 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 and here. People just sign off away just because why not? But like, what is so darn complicated? And honestly, like, can you just make this into 2 pages? Like, just say, hey, I understand that you have
It's all clouds. It's all for security. It's
right,
all for like,
but you
hey,
could just make
we
a simple thing where, and they have to be legal about this. So it's concrete, and there's no loopholes. Period. But what's so bad about, hey, this person is going to make a contract. This guy's gonna, we're gonna sponsor this person for this amount of time, and all this person needs to say is this and this and that. I get legal jargon has to be part of it.
and this is the amount we promise and
Right.
things like
I
that.
guess that's the legal jargon. Right. And I understand that you don't want to go to court for like the small things because there's a small little thing that like a little loophole that the person who's taking advantage of the sponsor was using. I get that, but I personally wouldn't sign a sponsorship if it's more than 5 pages, because then you're just hitting me with just nonsense, like legal nonsense. Just tell me as a human.
You're hitting with some suspect
Yeah, just
shit.
tell me like a human what you want me to do, what I need to do for you, and what you'll do for me, and we'll sign on it. We can even do a video recording. That's it. Just say, hey, I so and so will do this, and this person, and then the company will say like, yeah, we will do this, this and that, stuff like that, right? It's just, that's why these what do you call it? These brands, music brands, they really, and I mean really, try to get you confused with all the attorney language jargon that you get lost in just all these terms, all these sub paragraphs, all these different types of little details. You're like, why is this here? Why is that there? It's just you have to know how to read a legal contract.
Yeah. Or that, or get that, and get a reliable, trustworthy lawyer that isn't, provided from a record company, because you're just having a guy behind your back, like telling you lies, or
Right.
not looking out for your personal
Right.
best interest.
But that's really it. That you got to be careful. And the whole point of economics or just making a trade or making a sell is convincing the person who has money to give you that money with you spending the least amount of resources as possible for him to give you that money. So, but
Right.
people are predatory in that way. But yeah.
Yeah, it's really a shame when some young talent, especially, has like a lot of promise and stuff, but then they get fucked over or taken advantage from like an industry. And it's just for any industry. I've heard the same thing with comics before. With I think I'm pretty sure we all remember the trash fire that was Machinima. That was a mess. If you were signed on to an MCM, for example, you were potentially screwed, essentially. But that's a whole other can of worms. We could definitely save that for the next podcast, because I actually have a lot more I want to talk about.
Too. I'm not sure if you know about it.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, with the fact that, like, Dave Chappelle approached Netflix and said, "Hey, listen, I want to keep a good relationship with you guys. I know you guys put my show on Netflix, but I'm not making any money out of it. I got screwed over by the Comedy Central at the time, and I don't make a cent out of this being available on streaming services." And Netflix said, "Okay, we want to keep good relations with you." We got rid of it. But it's still on HBO Max, but that was kind of crazy. It was like, oh, Chappelle's show's on HBO Max. It's like, oh, now it's on Netflix. Like, oh, but Chappelle asked Netflix, like, hey, I this kind of bothers me. I've worked with you guys. I made special for you guys. And I don't feel comfortable like seeing the show there that I worked on, and I'm not making anything out of it.
To boycott it too.
And there's another one I recommend if you watch the Joe Rogan podcast. There was one where Bill Burr, not Bill Burr. Is it Bill Burr? No, Bill Burr is the guy who directed.
I think so.
Uh-huh.
Bill Burr, the comedian.
Yeah, that's the comedian, Boston, right? Yeah, the one with the red hair, and he's the one in F is for Family. Oh, that's him. Okay, then I guess he must have wrote The Incredibles 2 or something. I might be mistaken it for something. He's bald. Yeah. He was bringing up like a great story where it was like, oh, I remember this too, when like back in Comedy Central, and it's like very early infancy, they would hire like all these comedians, and they'll be like, hey man, you're really good, and we want you to make a special. And then they realized that the reason why they asked him to make the special was because the last comedian they made a special for bombed, and so they need to make up the loss, do your special.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's some crazy shit out there. But again, I would love to go more into depth with it in the next podcast because I really want to talk about like machinima music and people pursuing their goals and how to avoid it because I know you wanted to talk about that, Marcos. But let's go ahead and wrap up for the day, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the for the DKM podcast. Words. DKM podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed your Valentine's Day with your significant other. Wrap around your weenie. Don't want to get that thing burning. Be safe out there. Thank you so much for listening. You know, you always can follow us on Twitter. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're on Google Podcasts. Anywhere that you can listen to us, we'll be there. And we'll be here. Keep talking into your ears. Thank you so much. And maybe someday, if we hit 100 episodes, we might make a DKM vinyl box set. If possible.
Nice.
If possible. Look at your local borders. If we get that sponsor, we'll look into that. Have a good one, guys. Take care and be safe.